What is going on YouTube? Just helping you out here. And in today's video, I am going to be unboxing the 14-inch heavy-duty metal bed frame from today's video sponsor, Veni Home. If you are interested in one of these bed frames, feel free to click the Amazon link in the description below. Once I have used the bed frame for a bit of time, I will likely make a review video where I share my experience with it. Alright, let's get right into this unboxing. So as always, I would first like to get started with the packaging, and as you can see here, we have a generic cardboard box that is more designed to be a transport vessel rather than something that is going to describe all of the important features of this bed frame. Despite this, the top of the packaging here has some details that are unique to this product. Over here on the right, you can see that we have a digital rendering of the fully assembled product. And then over here on the left, you can see we have the item number, we have the size. This one in particular is for a twin bed, but you can actually get it in the 4 standard sizes of bed. So a twin, a full, a queen, and a king. It also tells you the gross weight. The actual product itself is 22.2 pounds, and it was made in China. And since there isn't any important information on any of the sides or the bottom, we're going to open this thing up and see what's inside. Alright, so as you saw there, this is actually a hinged box, which I think is a fantastic idea for this because now you can see we have this large open area where I can see all the pieces and I can carefully take them out, not having to worry about scratching them or damaging them, as opposed to a normal box where I'd have to open just this one little end and pull everything out from that side, which would certainly make it more susceptible to scratches or any sort of damage since I can't really see what I'm doing. Another thing that I'd like to point out here before we take everything out of the box is I think the inside of this is actually packaged pretty nicely. So you can see we have these little cardboard supports at either end. Those are kind of like that egg carton material. We also have some of these flat cardboard pieces that are more your typical corrugated cardboard. And finally, we have a zip tie right here holding some things together. And I wanted to point these things out to emphasize that it is packaged nicely in such a way that all of the pieces of the bed frame are held in place and kept stable and not allowed to touch one another, so there isn't any sort of damage or scratching that occurs during the transportation process. All right, now I'm going to take everything out of the box so we can see what we're working with. And I'm first going to start with this piece of paper that we have here. All right, so as you can see here, this is the instructions for building this bed frame. Now this does contain some details that I've already mentioned, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the things that I haven't mentioned yet. And the first thing is this 5-year limited warranty. There is some information about that on this page here, as well as the return policy, but I'd also recommend going to their official website for more information. This will be linked in the description below. You can also contact them via email if you need to, so their email is right there. And then at the bottom here, it just recommends that you read this instruction manual carefully before attempting to assemble. And I would agree with that because this is a very, very small instruction manual. There aren't that many steps to building this bed because one of the main design features of this particular bed frame is that it is very easy and very fast to assemble. So if we go ahead and open this up, you can first see in the top left there that there's an explosion diagram showing everything kind of laid out. Just below that, we have components. And again, you can see here, there's only 3 types of components. That's it. There's no screws, there's no nails or any sort of tool, and you don't need to get any tools out of your toolbox. This is all you need right here. It's just these 3 components. And next to that, we have a step-by-step guide on how to build this bed frame, which I will get into more detail when I show you how to assemble it. But I want to highlight again, there's only 4 steps. That's it. So it shouldn't be too terribly difficult, and it really shouldn't take that much time either. All right, so I'm going to set this off to the side, and we'll take a look at the parts that are in the box. All right, so the first piece that I pulled out of this box is labeled letter A, and this is essentially the 2 main supporting sides of the bed frame. So we have a hinge right here and a hinge right here, and these 2 big sides are going to fold outward. And since there's one of these on either side, there's a total of 2 inside the box. All right, so now I have taken out one of each of the 2 other components that are inside this box. At the top here, we have the component labeled B, and you can see it's essentially just a rod with these 2 feet at the end. And these are going to be the major supports that go between the two components labeled letter A. So there's going to be one at each end and one in the middle for 3 total supports. And now at the bottom here, you can see we have component C, which is essentially just a rod, and these are going to be the minor support beams that go between the two components labeled letter A. And there are a total of 8 of those components labeled letter C. So there are 2 A's, 3 B's, and 8 C's for a total of 13 components total. That's it. In that entire box, there are 13 components. And that is again to emphasize that this is a simple, easy to assemble, and quick to assemble design. Now, just before we dive into the assembly, I just want to note a couple more details about these components. So each of them is made out of steel. It's essentially a hollow steel rod, but the metal is thick enough to be quite sturdy. There is also a black polish that is intended to be simple and neutral so that this bed frame can match a variety of styles of room. Alright, so I think that's enough detail about what's inside the box. Let's build our bed frame. Alright, so the first step to building this bed frame is to take both components labeled letter A and simply open them up at those 2 hinges that I mentioned earlier. So this is going to act as one side of your bed frame. And same thing with the other one. Now for step 2, you need the 3 components that are labeled letter B. And just a warning, I think that this step is probably the most tricky if you have only one person building this frame, and that's because you're going to need to find some way to hold both components labeled letter A while putting one of these rods across the 2. If you have another person helping you though, this should not be a problem. If you do only have one person though, like I am doing here, you're going to want to lean one of the components labeled letter A against the wall. That way you can hold the other one out at a distance that will allow you to put one of these rods between the 2. Alright, so now you can see that first rod labeled letter B is in place, and now let's put the other 2 in. Alright, so that's it for step 2, and now for step 3, all we need to do is take the components labeled letter C and put them between this bracket and that bracket on either side of the frame. So you can see there's 4 in this square, and there's 4 in that square over there. Alright, so that's it for step 3, and now you have a fully assembled bed frame. Now going back to how this was advertised, I would certainly agree that this was both easy and quick. I was able to do this myself without needing another person, and it was as simple as unfolding 2 sides and laying down 11 bars. I didn't need to make sure I was using the right screws, I didn't need to make sure this hole aligned with that one, or anything like that. And I didn't specifically time it since I was trying to do this on camera, but if I was to go from everything being packaged in the box to a fully assembled bed frame, I would say that it is reasonable to do this in 10 to 15 minutes. Alright, so the last thing to do is step 4, which is simply to enjoy your bed frame and make your bed. But before I do that, I want to mention a few other details about this bed frame before I go ahead and cover it with a mattress, blankets, and pillows. So the first thing is that this is a platform bed frame. You do not need a box spring. The dimensions are 75 inches long ways, 39 inches in width, and 14 inches tall. But I will note that 14 inches does include the thickness of the bed frame, so you would actually get 13 inches of clearance under the bed frame for you to store things like boxes or suitcases or really anything you want that'll fit down there. And the point of that is to give you some extra storage space to declutter whatever room you put this in. Now in terms of support, you can see that we have 8 total legs touching the ground. So you can see there's one at this end, there's one at this end, and there's a dual support in the middle on both sides. And the dual supports in the middle are going to give added sturdiness that you would not find if it was only one support in the middle there. And because of that added sturdiness, the weight limit of this bed frame is actually 1,500 pounds. Now it will be difficult to see here, but each of those supports at the very bottom has a little foot on it that's actually made of rubber. And that is so if you were to put this bed frame on, say, a hardwood floor, it will prevent the bed frame from sliding around and scratching or damaging your floor. This bed frame is also designed to be noise-free, so it shouldn't rattle or squeak much. Just from that little test, I'd say I agree. It doesn't really make that much noise. Now the last thing I want to mention before we make the bed is that each of these supports in the 4 corners has one of these slots. And those will allow you to attach any standard headboard or footboard to this bed frame so you can customize it a little bit. All right, now let's make our bed. And there you have it. The bed is made and step 4 is complete. And now if we take a look under here, you can see all of the storage space that is still available. All right, so that pretty much does it for this unboxing. Big shout out again to Veni Home for sponsoring this video. Please check out their links in the description below. Feel free to check out all my other unboxing videos in the top left corner. If you enjoyed this one, please drop a like, leave a comment if you have any questions or an idea for a future video. Feel free to follow my socials in the description below. And lastly, please don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends about my channel so I can grow and help more of you guys out. I'm just helping you out. See you in the next video.